connection, and I am clicking on go live. And here we go. Still connecting to YouTube, but we're probably already streaming. Just waiting for the video to appear here. The counter. Okay. Let's see here. Hang on 1 second.
We'll mute our phones, okay?
I did.
Great.
Okay, yes, here we go. Now we're streaming. So let's get the party started. Hello, planet Earth, and welcome. I'm Lilia. My pronouns are she, hers, they, or them. And thank you for joining us for this 16th episode of DM Maynard's Reflective Conversation series on gender affirmation for parents, partners, educators, health providers, and more, which is part of our platform aimed to visibilize all gender affirming topics. So before we get started with today's episode, which we do all believe that it is urgent to lift trans voices and allow them to lead the conversation whenever it is possible. So today we have our real host, DM Maynard. Welcome.
Hi, I'm DM Maynard, and my pronouns are she, her, hers also. And I want to wish everybody a happy 2023.
Oh, and am I supposed to introduce myself? Sorry. No.
Yes, you
Yeah,
can.
good. Hi, Nina.
Hi, I'm Nina. Yeah. I'm the mom of a transgender daughter.
And your pronouns I see are also she, her, hers, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yep.
And your daughter's pronouns, is that the same so that we refer to her properly?
Yes.
Wonderful.
She is
Thanks.
she, her, hers. Yep.
Great. So I think
Okay.
that sometimes where Lil is going in and out, but maybe it's me.
No,
Me-
that's why I wasn't quite sure what was happening.
Yeah. Okay, good. It's okay. You're so cute, Lil. It doesn't make a difference if you're going in and out. We just happen to love looking at you. So let's continue on now. Lil, did you want to explain some things that are new for the new year?
Yes, I do. And I'm sorry if there's some technical issues here with my connection. And so I come in and out. I hope that you're all hearing me okay. I understand maybe Dee can jump in and explain, but these books here, we've got 2 that we're going to give away today. So I just need any viewers to like, share, comment, and send an email to me. And I'll put my email now in the chat so that you can, any viewer, can send me this message showing that they've liked, shared, and commented, and we will send you a free copy of the book.
Okay, Lila, it's not as clear, so I'll just help you. Lil came up with this wonderful idea with Facialteam, and I can't thank them enough. They're going to be, whenever we do a live a live taping, whoever comes on will be eligible, depending on the criteria that Lil sets and Facialteam, to receive a free copy of either my partner or parent book, workbook. And so what you would have to do is you will have to take down Facialteam with Lil's email and connect with her, and she will then figure out who shared, liked first about today's taping. And then when she finds that out, you'll connect with her and give your email, and then she will give it to the first person who does that. Do I have that right, Lil? Okay, so let's get started with Nina because she is the focus. I mean, everything that, I just want to show you. The parent book was translated into Polish. I'm so excited. Okay, so we found that out last year, but I have got my copy now. So anyway, Nina, why don't you explain how you first met Lil and how you connected with her, and then she connected me to you. So would you mind doing that introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. This past summer of 2022, I was with my daughter in Marbella, Spain. She was getting facial feminization surgery at Facialteam. And through that experience, that's how I was connected with Lilia.
Okay.
And so,
Did you want to add something about that?
what'd you say?
Well, did you have something else to add about that?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you a little bit about Facialteam, and I mean, do you want me to tell you about our experience there, or do you want me to just?
Okay, sure. You can tell about your experience there. Let me just explain to the people who are tuning in for the first time. You don't usually have these technical difficulties, but at this moment, we're just going to do our best and keep going forward. So I'm sorry that it might have seemed like I cut you off. I went out for a minute here. So what our series about right now is making sure that everything we do is in support and honoring those that are in transition, have questioning their gender and moving forward with their gender exploration, or sorting out things for themselves so that they feel safe and whole, and where their gender journey is going to take them. And one of the things that we noticed was that if the best way we can support those that identify in the transgender spectrum is to support their parents, their partners, and educators, and any of those who are advocates in the community. So Nina is one of those people, and she is a mom, as she said, of a transgender daughter. And so Nina, I'm going to start out and ask you a few questions, and then we'll talk more about Facialteam, because I really want to get into that when I know Lil can definitely contribute. So tell me a little bit about, let's say, when you first found out that your daughter needed to transition, and how old were they, or how long ago was that?
Okay. So, it's kind of a blur, but it was, I believe, in the fall. Well, I know it was in the fall of 2020. And there had been chatter about it in the, I would say in maybe the years leading up to that, about my daughter questioning her gender identity, her sexual identity. She came out as being gay when she was in 9th grade. And then that, it's been an ongoing exploration, I would say. So, the fall of 2020, we were in the beginnings of the pandemic, and everything was abnormal, I think, for everyone. And my daughter was away at school in college during that time. She was 20 years old then. And being away at school, she goes to a smaller school, and it's very isolating for her there initially, because they had to wear masks. They were not able to go into the dining hall. She couldn't have friends in her room for the first several weeks. And I think that in addition to this ramping up of questioning her gender identity and really feeling that she was transgender, became too much for her, and she ended up coming home that semester. Luckily all of her classes were still online, so it's not like she missed that semester, but she definitely needed all of our support for her during this time. She knew that she needed to live her life authentically as a woman, for sure. So, when she came home that fall, we were definitely in like a crisis mode, because she was just so upset, and overwhelmed by the prospect of transitioning. To her, that meant, she was going to have to go on hormones. She had all of these ideas of the different surgeries that people get, or if they choose to. And she wanted to get a bunch of different surgeries. And it was a daunting task for her, and it became, very overwhelming. She was crying a lot. She felt like life had been just so unfair to her. Why couldn't she have been born female in the first place? Why did she have to go through her whole life as a boy, and not really understanding what was wrong with her growing up? There was a lot of emotional conflict, I think, going on within her. And as parents, and certainly as her mom, I would witness it. And things just never quite felt right with her growing up. And, my husband and I noticed she would, at a really young age, she wanted to dress up in dresses. When she would play dress up with her friends, she wanted to be the pink Power Ranger in Power Rangers when they would role play. When she got to hit puberty and she started to get hair on her legs, she was very uncomfortable about that. She was very uncomfortable with swimming without a swim shirt on. She never would take off her swim shirt. And she later says that she just would have felt too exposed, I think, without having a swim shirt on. So, really, when she finally came out to my husband and I, and it wasn't a total surprise because of all of these things that have happened throughout her there's more, but that's sort of the gist of it, that we weren't totally surprised about her saying she is transgender.
Thanks, Nina. I don't think it could have been said any more honestly. And thank you for sharing so much personal stuff there, and for your daughter being comfortable enough for you to share this part about her. I want to know, so how did it feel for you? I can hear all the angst that she went through, and it seems like you were right there. You were right there for her. So tell me, what were the thoughts and feelings that were going through your head as you were learning about this as a parent?
My initial thought, or my initial feelings, and this is, well, first of all, the whole thing has just been very difficult emotionally. It's a hard thing to grapple. It's a hard thing to really fully understand. And I had a lot of difficulty with that. My initial thought, and again, this is very shallow, but I'll just be honest, that my initial thought was worrying about what other people that I knew, other parents, other family members, whatever, what were they going to think? And in the early days when her hair wasn't long, and this was before she went on hormones, she was wearing women's clothes, and being out in public, I was concerned, maybe not necessarily when she was with me or my husband, but if she was alone out in public, I did definitely worry about her safety. I would certainly notice, if we were at the grocery store, I'd notice people sort of doing a double take and kind of stare And that I really did not like that. I would feel through those stares, it really made me feel less than. I felt shame. I felt, again, it's not me, but I would feel embarrassed, and or that didn't last very long, these kinds of feelings, but that was definitely early on. And you know, I think that once she began hormone therapy a year after she came home that fall semester. So we wanted to be sure that this wasn't, you know, a phase or something like that. And, you know, that was, we just wanted to be sure that she processed really everything before taking the plunge and really doing this 100%. So once she did start taking the hormones, though, she began having the female characteristics, some breast development, some fat redistribution. Her skin was softer, and so at that point, after a year, her hair had grown, and she definitely looked more. She definitely. Oh, whoops. Okay. She definitely passed at that time. So, so I don't know if I answered your question, but.
No, you have. I'll continue with it because you're so articulate with all of this. And I when I speak with parents and partners, they often talk about some sense of loss or grief for them as a partner or a parent. Did you experience any of that? And if so, how? Can you explain what you mean if you did?
Yeah, sure. No, I definitely did. You know, the loss and the grief of the loss of my son to now being my daughter, I had difficulty connecting with that. There's so many emotions, I think, that I have been feeling, that it is hard. You say I was articulating. It's very hard to articulate because there's just so much going on inside for me as a mom, that it's just hard to make sense of.
Can you give me a little more detail of that now that you, in hindsight, because
Yeah,
you've had a little time to process when you say that? Thanks.
Yeah. So it's just, I think that because the feelings and the emotions are so raw and it's so overwhelming that it's hard to articulate. However, I can say that I think the first time that I felt that loss of having a daughter, of having a son, was when we were in Spain this past summer. So as I had mentioned previously, we met Lilia through Facialteam, which is located in Marbella, Spain. It's like the southern coast. It's beautiful.
Gorgeous, gorgeous. And
yes, it's.
So wait 2 seconds, says we'll keep going on. It says that the recording stopped and Lil's frozen. So we'll just keep chatting. Lil, let us know when you're live. It said the recording had stopped, but we'll continue. Is that okay? Are we recording now? Because it doesn't, we're going to keep going. Okay. She's saying keep going and we're good. I'm really sorry to the audience members. Please come back again when we do this because this is a rare moment. And Nina, you're fantastic. So, okay. So now you were saying about your daughter, that getting used to her being your daughter.
Yes.
And the grief of.
So this past summer, we were in Marbella, Spain, at the Facialteam. And so Facialteam is a center, like a surgery center, basically, where there are multiple different surgeons performing surgery and not plastic surgery, really. It's more feminizing the face. It's called facial feminization surgery. And
people call it FFS in the States, FFS.
And the goal of these surgeons is to feminize the face. To feminize the face, to make you look like you would have had you not gone through male puberty. So she underwent an 8-hour surgery, and they did multiple things. She had a bit of a receding hairline, so they did a hair transplant to fix the male pattern baldness. They shaved the brow bone and lifted her eyebrows up a little bit. They did a rhinoplasty, feminizing the nose, and they slightly shaved the jaw and chin, so that all of these features then became feminized.
What about a tracheal shave?
She did not have a tracheal shave. She didn't need a tracheal shave, but that is another thing that they would do.
Okay. I don't usually ask, but I just want people to know that that is sometimes part of it. So I don't mean to, get too personal with, any more detailed, but just to let audience members know that. Okay.
Yeah. And also another thing that they would have done, but my daughters did not need this, was, I think, the distance between the nose and the lip for men sometimes is longer. And so they would have lifted that up a little bit, but she didn't need that. And there may be one or two other things on the face that they do, but my daughter didn't need that particular surgery.
Right. So I guess it's individual. I mean, clearly it's very individualized. I mean, they know what they're doing, and it's very individualized.
It's very individualized. And the way that we had found Facialteam was when I first learned that my daughter was transgender. The way I coped with it was I started to do a whole bunch of research online and try to find, the best surgeons or the people who I felt we were most comfortable with. My husband happens to be a physician, and so he has understanding and knowledge about the medical aspects of the surgeries and the physicians that I don't have, but I did a whole search, and the first thing that I did was found a physician who would be able to do the vaginoplasty, the bottom surgery, and through them, I had asked about a bunch of different, I asked them for referrals for facial feminization surgery, and they gave me several. And at the very end of the conversation, they said to me, the best of the best is Facialteam. And she said that was what this doctor would have said. And I said, oh, wait, what? Okay, what is that? And where is that? And then as I started doing more research, it was very clear. It's the surgeons at Facialteam are so specialized, and they are so skilled at what they do, and they're not going to recommend something on your face unless it's something that you really needs to be done.
Right. And what I've interviewed Dr. Capitan and of course Lilia when I was there in our April episode of last year. And the other thing I noticed, since we're talking about Facialteam, I want to make sure people know this, that it's a whole team approach. It's not just the surgeons, but it's from the minute you walk in the door, the emotional support, because I got to go and train the staff, which I was so honored to do. And so that they really have an understanding about the companions, like a parent like you, because I want to connect it back with you, because I know you were just talking a lot about medically transitioning, and which can or cannot include surgery and or can or cannot include hormones. But there's also, the social aspect, which is when you were talking about dressing, in public, and, name changes sometimes and pronouns, as, many people know that are listening. I always call the people listening the audience, because my background's theater, but our listeners, our wonderful listeners. But the part of that I would want to go back to a little bit is about you as a parent. And it's very common when I talk to parents, because parents are always used to putting their children first. And so it's going to be common. I'm going to bring you back a little as an educator. I always know that I want to talk about you. And in this case, when you said there was grief and loss for you, what did you feel like you were losing or grieving besides, the gender of your child's representation, right? The expression or stuff. And also, we'll get back to when you first saw your daughter, as you were seeing your daughter with these changes, how that felt. But let's talk about the grief part. And I don't have to, stay on that too long, but we want to go back to that at drop.
Yeah, no, you're right. I forgot about that part.
Oh, no worries. This is you. This is, again, I just want to also say, this is about you. And if there's anything that you don't feel comfortable saying, or you feel is too private, you just tell me and we move on.
Gotcha. So the loss, that was the first time that I felt the grief and the loss, because it felt that my child was being taken from me, really. That, I realized that it was just a shift in her face, and she still is who she is, but it doesn't matter. There's still a sense of loss that I feel, and I grieve about it. I grieve for her. I feel very sad, certainly, for her childhood and how confusing it was for her, and not really understanding where that all was coming from. But it seems for me, when the loss becomes most exaggerated is when she had that surgery. The other thing is, a couple of weeks ago, she had another surgery where they did a fat transfer. So they took the fat from her abdomen and kind of where the male love handles are. I mean, she's not heavy or anything, but that's where it kind of collects on men. And they liposuctioned that out and purified it, or did whatever they did. And then they re-injected it into her hip and butt area to give her more of like the feminine figure. And then during that time is again where I felt that loss. I felt that yearning for her, of what, that I'm losing a part of her.
Okay. And so during that time, how do you take care of yourself emotionally? What would you recommend to parents, and how did you take care of yourself emotionally, and even now in relation to that?
Yeah.
Mental health wise or anyway.
Right. If I hadn't been through a lot of my own therapy, I would suggest 100% for people to seek therapy, for sure. Again, because it's such an overwhelming and complicated process that as a parent you're going through. But in terms of taking care of myself, I just do stuff that I'm sure a lot of people do. I go for walks. I try to be healthy, and I take care of myself in that way. I'll go for walks. I'll listen to audiobooks. I educate myself for sure about everything that I can related to being transgender, because for me that calms me, understanding and knowing information about being transgender. I spend a lot of time with friends, and I have an incredibly supportive network of friends that I can't say enough about. And sometimes we go for walks. I have like regularly scheduled lunches with friends. My husband and I get together with friends frequently for dinner or just to go to a game or whatever. And all of our support network were very they're very supportive, and they're very open, and they're interested in hearing, how we're doing and what we're going through. And I find that as a way of taking care of myself. I get the occasional manicure and pedicure and facial massage
I love your
sometimes.
jewelry too. I think you had mentioned something about the jewelry you're wearing.
Oh, right. And
Yes,
so
tell them. You told us when you did the pre, because
yes,
we were talking about jewelry.
I have a beautiful necklace on.
Thank
and
you. I got this in our travels. My spouse got this for me with the earrings. I love it. In Mexico, I got it.
Beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
my daughter, my transgender daughter, had got this and my matching earrings.
So do you always refer to her as your transgender daughter, or do you refer to her as your daughter?
No. I guess I don't know why I said that, but
Okay.
no.
No, because I just want to, some people do, and some people ask me that, and some people want to be identified like that. So I just want to be honorable to you and do what your daughter would, how she would want me to refer to her. And so, you talked about the bathing suit part for your daughter, and I hear about that. I remember going shopping with someone, a trans young girl who wanted to wear a bathing suit that fit, was aligned with her gender and her gender expression, her firm gender. And people don't realize how traumatizing something like swimming can be. It's something that cisgender people, and that's cis, those that are whose gender at birth aligns with their affirming gender. That's what a cisgender person is, for those who don't know. And I'm cisgender, that we take for granted. And there are many social aspects that a person who is, especially younger children, because they, surgery is not, an option for them at particular ages, go through. And so even those that are entering young adulthood, 20, they still go through those things all along. And so I just wanted to bring that up because it does affect, and you as a parent to know that your child might have been suffering or pained in any way. A parent doesn't want that for their child, can be really heartbreaking. And you had mentioned that you were nervous at the beginning about what others would think, but it sounds like your support system stayed pretty much intact.
Completely, yes, and as did my family.
Okay. And that is not uncommon, but it's not common. And I say that with the duality of that, is that sometimes our greatest fears during the journey of this, because, is that it doesn't have to be. And that sometimes taking small steps and really doing your homework and talking to people how they came out to other people and explained it as a family, that's why I write about, for families, is very important for you to find your own voice, as it sounds like you clearly have, and to articulate in the most direct way without overwhelming yourselves and taking breaks. Like we said, you go out to dinner and you talk about things, and sometimes you might talk about your child's transition, and maybe you won't with your spouse, with your friends, and it's just one other thing you talk about. And after a while, it's not even something, based on people that I have spoken to. Has been that part of your experience too?
Yeah. So it's definitely a part of my experience that I can be very open with my support network of people, but I can say though that when I initially worried about it, it was more, I think, people that I'm more like acquaintances with that I may bump into, and wondering, God, what will they think? But no, we've definitely become more accustomed to it and more comfortable with it. And right now, I don't really care what other people think, because it just doesn't matter. And
because it's your child. It's your child. And it's about you and your child, you know?
That's right. And if other people are so concerned about what my child's doing, then that has nothing to do with me or my child. So I've moved past that pretty quickly.
Right. A person's opinion of me is none of my business. You know, that's what I say sometimes, right? And so when you are talking about this, also I would want to talk about, you know, right now in the current climate in the world in respect to, you know, gender diverse people, how has this impacted your life or your family's life? What do you think about what's going on in some areas in the US right now and around the world, actually?
Yeah.
In relation to transphobia, as I would like to title it. And that's saying it mildly.
Yes, exactly. To be honest with you, I'm not the best person to answer that question, only because I am so in the thick of this transition. We are still early on in this. It's been 2 years. And for my own survival, I have to sort of stay in my bubble. I can't be too concerned about the political climate. You know, in so many ways, it seems like there have been advances in transgender acceptance, but then it all gets taken away. And then, you know, then there's, you know, upheavals about, you know, sharing bathroom or not sharing bathrooms, but like having, you know, your transgender daughter use the proper bathroom of the gender with which they align. And, you know, I can't be concerned with that right now. I'm still, I think, in the stage or in the mode of really surviving. And so that's what I have to
you know,
say.
it's funny that the cover of the book is water, because it's all about, you know, the life, you know, preserver, or being able to swim above it and not feel like you're drowning. And some people, you know, I wanted that cover because no, it's on all of them. I mean, it was very important because that's the story of a lot of people, especially early on. And then later on, and I'm glad for your honesty that advocacy, oh my God, Lily, so funny, is advocacy going on sometimes as part of people's journey later on. And I just wanted to ask where you were about that and your thoughts. But how does it feel, because your child's an adult, but always your child, when they are in charge of what they're going to be, I mean, you know, they should have agency over their body, of course. But how does it feel to be involved or not be asked to be involved? Like, how did that conversation come up for you to decide what you would be involved with, what you wanted to be, what she wanted you to be? Because as an adult, it's a very different experience when a parent is making that decision or being asked to make that decision for their child. As an adult parent, and your child went from having to ask you perhaps, and it would have been maybe 2 years earlier or 3 years earlier. And now, how does that go for you?
Right. So, you know, with my daughter, we're very close, and we are very close as a family and very open about things that, you know, with my children, with things that they're going through. And so for our situation, it didn't really change much because she wants our input. She can go and do whatever she wants because she's 22, and you know, she was 20 at the time. But you know, she wants our input. She really does. And you know, we really make decisions together as a family, meaning my husband and I and my daughter. So, you know, if she were older and out of the house and had her own life, I would imagine I would have a different answer than that. But even though she is an adult, she still is just, I feel like, entering the adult world, and she still is dependent on us. So
right,
that
like even financially, right? Because this is very expensive. So, I mean, I know we speak about it and there are scholarships and there are different types of places that support and give up. Lil has something she wants to say. The finger. Lil gives me the polite finger.
But I didn't want to interrupt you in the middle of your sentence.
No, go right ahead. You can always interrupt me.
I have a question from one of our viewers, which I think is a little pertinent to this topic right here in this moment, or what you were speaking about a minute ago, as to what advice would you give as a mom to a child in approaching a parent on coming out, like the methods, the timing, etc. And also, do you think that the influence of the internet had an impact on your daughter's self-identification? So there are really two questions there.
So tell me again, what was the first question?
The first question was, what advice would you give to children or young adults who want to come out to their parents in regards to the method to do it, the timing, etc.?
Okay. So, I mean, I guess it depends, because it depends on the whole family dynamic, the whole situation. I think that, children may be so scared of how their parents are going to react, which I would completely understand that, but they know their parents better than I would be able. I don't know if I could answer it necessarily. I think depending on how young this child is, if they're like of school age and they're still in middle or high school, that it may benefit them to go talk to their counselor at school, to kind of get some feedback and just have some conversation about their situation and how they're feeling. And I think that if they can begin to test the waters a little bit with their parent, having maybe more generalized questions or conversations about the transgender community, or about maybe someone they know, or they can pretend that they know someone and how they feel for that person, or just to kind of get a sense of how their parents would react. I don't know. I mean, I also think that sometimes parents' reactions initially aren't going to be good. That's a reality, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that that parent isn't going to come around. There was a book that I read called Found in Transition, and it's by Paris Hassouri. She's a pediatrician, and she talks about her initial reaction to hearing that her daughter wanted to transition. And she now this is years later, says she did all the wrong things. She said the wrong things, she reacted the wrong way, and she wishes she could just take it all back, because in the end, all that matters is that the parent supports their child. And for parents who aren't able to do that for whatever reasons they have, I think that the child needs to find that support elsewhere. They need to be able to get into a group of people with like-minded people who are experiencing the same thing, because they need to have that support. Yep, go ahead. And then
can I just add in? Oh, Lil, did you want to get into that? Because
on the topic of that support, it reminds me of the peer group, which was originally created on Facebook by Facialteam now 10 years ago. It's over 3,000 people strong, people who both have had gender affirming medical care and others who have not, and helping each other. And there are a lot of parents and family members and partners in there. And so that's one of the kinds of resources that you were referring to now, right?
Absolutely. That I was going to say that that yes, Facialteam has a Facebook page specifically dedicated toward everything that you just said, Lilia, and people. I'm part of it. People, it's very, very supportive. People are asking questions about different surgeries other people have had. The Facialteam Facebook page is more, I think, toward, like you said, the gender affirming medical aspects of the transition. And that is a wonderfully supportive Facebook page to go to. And as an aside, when we were at Facialteam this summer, there are psychologists on staff, and they ran a group during the week for patients, either patients who are just about to get the surgery or who have had the surgery, and that was phenomenal. The other thing is there's a Facebook page that I'm a part of for parents of adult children, and there are all sorts of resources on there, as well as support, people writing in about their own journeys, and it's a very supportive environment, and that's what I would recommend for that child.
Yeah. I concur everything you just said. I feel that it's very important if a parent is having difficulty accepting for them to get their own, have a place where they can go speak and talk about it and feel comfortable, that would be supportive. But I think part of the question, if I misunderstand it, Lil, tell me, is that they want to know how the adult or the person who's in transition would approach their parents. Is that correct? How they would do that. So I would say that if you're not sure how you want to do it, I mean, I have these kind of exercises that I use sometimes, but I would say to make a list of all the people that you think might be supportive of you. And start with the person or the people, even if it's not your parents and a friend, and practice with them. Think about, say, this is what I'd like to say to my parent. Can you role play with me? What do you think it would be? What would people say? So that you can have the idea of how you would react depending on what your parent might say. And I agree with Nina, you know your parents best, and you know what would be best for yourself. The idea is that you, as a person going through your gender exploration, is to make sure that you keep yourself feeling safe and in a place where you're getting the support you need, so that after you tell them, have something set up that you can go to right after, where you can process whatever your parents' reaction might be, so that it's like kind of bookending, saying to somebody, I'm going to go talk to my parents today, right now, and then can I call you back later, or can we meet up later? So that all the feelings that you're having gets processed, not alone. I mean, if you want to just sit with your friend in silence, that's fine, because you have no idea what it might or might not trigger, and you may expect something that might be negative, and it could be very positive, it could be reverse, and people can really surprise you. And so that would be something that I would want to add into, is to practice ahead of time and have support set up prior to going in and after. And some people give people resources or give them, places that they could go to. And so I think it's a very important question. I think there was a second part of this question, or you said an additional question, Lil, that the person asked.
Yes, the second part of the question is unrelated to the first part.
Right.
It's about what you think the influence of the internet was on your daughter's self-identification.
You mean, like, did the internet make her think that she wants to be different?
Yeah, I think it's along those lines. Yeah, because nowadays young people are always online and always, looking up videos.
The influence of the internet, I wouldn't say it's an influence. I would say it's a supportive it's a supportive medium in order to get information and to hear from other people. Certainly for my daughter, it didn't make my daughter transition. The internet didn't sway her mind or something. The internet had nothing to do with that. So if anything, I feel that the internet was helpful for her to not feel so alone, for her to hear other people's stories and get information. So
Right.
that
I think that that's a great way to answer that, because right now that is a conversation that happens on the internet with certain groups, and I agree with what you just said. I wanted to know, so how is your relationship with your daughter now? I mean, are there things that you feel that you do differently or the same? How do you relate to her now and other family members? If you don't need to add it for anybody else, but if you wanted to, it's up to you. Like, what are has it shifted the relationship dynamics, or is it the same?
I would say for my relationship with my daughter, it's the same. I mean, she's the same person. Just last night we were having a conversation about that, and she is who she is. She doesn't matter that she identifies with being female, even though she's assigned male at birth. So our relationship, I mean, I would say we've always had a close relationship, and it hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is that I'm saying she and her, and that's it. So,
well, I mean, it's great that you say that. When you say the pronoun has changed, and I'm not going to ask you, whether they changed their name or not. That's again, but since you're talking about pronoun right now, and I'm going to say whether she changed her name. I say they because I make it more gender neutral, but I know her pronoun is she. Is that how was that learning experience or that process for you with pronouns? Because parents talk about that part of the social transition. It takes a while, and if the pronoun is they, that has its own level of learning. How did you become comfortable and get to a place of acceptance for that to be a fluid way you speak of her and refer to her?
Well, I still slip up and say he. So I'm not perfect in this at all. And it's, I think that the more I am seeing my daughter as my daughter, and the more I embrace that, it's easier it just comes out naturally. I think and it's not to say that I don't embrace it when I slip up and say he. Sometimes it's a hard thing I have to think about. Sometimes I call my son she, and because I'm thinking like, okay, wait, I'm talking about him, but no, wait, Do you
mean a different child? Do you mean a different child? Right. So you're saying you have another child who you use the wrong pronoun with, right? Like, is you call each other the other one's name, right? But right. But that's when you do it though for your daughter who transitioned, and you make the mistake, right? Because it's not intentional. How do you address it? Do you apologize? If you're in public, like depending on the setting, of course, that could change. Or when others misgender her, by using the wrong pronoun, that's what I mean. How do you handle that, or how does she handle that, or others in your family?
So I will correct the other person if it's like my dad, who does it all the time. My dad's also 88. And, different generation, whatever, but I will correct whoever it is who makes a mistake if it's appropriate. I don't want to be obnoxious about it, but I just sort of gently say she, no, she, and then if I slip up and make a mistake, I will say, like you said, depending on the situation, I'll say, sorry, I just made a mistake. And in the beginning, she would get very upset with me. I think I've gotten more, because I've gotten better at it, and my track record shows that I've been using she way more than I've been using he. I kind of get a pass on that more than I did in the beginning. So
does she want you to correct others if they use the wrong pronoun? Because there's usually, when I've spoken with parents and people who are in transition, kids, sometimes they don't want anybody to say anything, and sometimes they really do. And I always say, have that conversation and ask these are all exercises that I put in the books, is find out, don't assume. Even with students, I say that with teachers, if you make a mistake, ask that student, do they want to be the one who corrects the person? Do they want you to do it? And that's what parents, so so did you have that kind of conversation? Do you know what she prefers?
Yes. Yeah. And she would prefer for me to say something. Or she'll speak up too. She's not afraid to, she's assertive, and she's not afraid to speak up, but there's some situations where it might be a little more delicate, and that it's on me. I'm the one that needs to speak up.
And when we were talking before, because you just mentioned siblings, do you want to, you don't need to share any part of this, because I know this might not be something that we thought we would discuss, but since you brought it up, siblings wise, how was that? Was that a dynamic in your family that, would you recommend how that is approached? Did your daughter speak to her siblings herself, or did you do that?
I don't remember how my son learned of it. It may have been from my daughter.
Okay.
But just to protect, my son, that would be another live stream.
Yeah, exactly.
To talk to him about.
No, I just meant how it happened, because sometimes when people speak, to come out based on that question at the last, sometimes people start with their siblings and then they go together to a parent, or sometimes they their sibling is their best advocate to help them with others. So that's why I brought it up. So when we were talking about your relationship and how it, it's pretty much the same, and how it hasn't really been impacted in that way, I was wondering if there are any privileges that either one of you feel that your child lost as they have transitioned, and how has that affected your child's life and or yours? Some privileges that you've lost or gained.
Right. The privilege, I would say, starting with my daughter, the privilege of walking around freely and since she's had this facial feminization surgery, there's no question that she looks female. So no one from the exterior would ever know, ever. And it's amazing. But when we go to a restaurant or we go to the airport, she has to present her ID, her license or her passport. And we have not changed the photos on both of those documents, and we haven't changed the gender marker. So that is always a little nerve-wracking for her. And she has to explain why she looks the way she does, and in both situations. So that she's lost the privilege for sure of being free in being able to be who she is without having to explain. But that will be changed once. We're going to wait a little bit until she gets the bottom surgery, and then we'll go ahead with that. Next step will be to change the documents.
Right. Especially if they do a body scan or something and you go through and they don't align. And this is something that I think is sometimes not discussed. And I'm very grateful that you brought this up, is that goes along with the safety that you talked about, her traveling by herself. I know that people sometimes, if they travel with friends, one friend will, if it's more than one friend will go through first. then they'll go through, and then another friend goes after. So in case they're detained on either way or something happens, they have somebody close by. There's lots of strategies that parents do also, where one parent might go through or sit somebody, so that because we just don't know traveling, what state, what country, how it's going to go, and how trained people are at TSA and how that's going to go. And that there is a whole process, talk about documentation all the time, that this takes time, it takes money, there's a lot of legal aspects of it. And it also sometimes, when you change things on certain documents, it affects insurances. And so there's so many things. I mean, I go into this in depth, although when I do workshops and things, is to really explain these aspects that are something, again, that a cisgender family, or, doesn't have to, doesn't experience this, would not think to know about. I mean, bathrooms we talk about all the time, but these are the other things that really affect a person's life. And again, she's an adult. So there you are. If she was a child, you could maybe go in with her or something. If for some reason they pulled the person over, I'm not saying that they are or they do, and I don't want to alarm anybody, but these are concerns and things that need to be discussed as a family, whether if your child is underage and if your child is of legal age. How are we going to handle these situations? And it's really important to be aware of where you're traveling and what the rights and the laws are in that state or in that country when you go. Mm-hmm. And if race is also a factor, how people are treated then too, because we have to really look at religion and race and how it impacts the travel in connection to a person who's transgender also, the intersectionality of all that. So I'm grateful as far as, that's one of the privileges that you were speaking of. And as far as how she's addressed or how people talk to her now, was there any changes in anything there with privilege or future careers or scholarships she might have had to, I don't know if she plays sports or any kind of scholarships that might have affected college-wise?
A good question. She's not, that didn't have that, any of those things, but there's one thing I was going to say. One thing that she's noticed is that she doesn't like that men will look at her. She's very pretty, and she's like, God, they're so, she feels a bit objectified to a degree. And so that has been a whole new thing. The other thing is men, and this is just generalized, but a lot of situations where men kind of push her aside, or, I don't know, the mansplaining or whatever that term is, where you sort of get just pushed aside as a woman. And that I've always, I don't feel like I get pushed aside, but she's had to learn to navigate that. And that was a new thing for her. So.
Right. All these social situations that you are treated differently, and how privilege is impacted with that. And so to walk freely on the street, maybe not get a comment from somebody where before she might not have, and now she is, or being spoken to as not an intelligent human being where you are. I mean, those of us that identify as female in any way have often experienced these types of things. And it's something that I think it's very important throughout the transitions, whether it's gaining privilege and not being spoken to like that or treated like that, it can also be as jarring. And it's not just, passing toilet paper under in a bathroom or something. It's all these nuances that family members also will, hugging in a particular way, like how a person might do that before and do that after, and all these societal impacts that we have, in society. We bow down to what people do and what's acceptable and unacceptable, and understanding as a parent how to navigate all of that, even as your child is an adult. I I know that, we're just going to go a few more minutes, I just want to know, like, is there anything that you wish you had known that I mean, we're not going to get to everything that I would love to talk to you about. You've been a wonderful guest. I mean, everybody who comes on and shares this space with me and Lil, who I love beyond words, has a sense of fear and concern, just like, we were talking before. And we understand that. And you're no different, I know. And I hope that this has made you feel comfortable and okay, and feel heard and respected. And with that in mind, I know so many people are where you are now, and they would want to know, is there something that you wish you had known or feel that is important that others would know as a parent, a trans person, the parent of a trans person, that you would recommend or say that you haven't said yet?
Right. Let's see. So one thing is, one of the first things I would recommend for somebody is to watch the documentary called Gender Revolution. It's a documentary that was put on by National Geographic, and the commentator is Katie Couric. And I think it's like an hour-long program. You can get it on, you can look it up, I think probably on YouTube. That's where I saw it. And it was very informational, very educational, helped me to even understand that there was a difference between gender identity and sexual identity. They aren't one and the same.
Orientation.
Exactly.
Right.
The other thing where in the very beginning, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And so I did this, I invented this little exercise, and I thought this really helped me. And I closed my eyes and I said, okay, if I had to live my life from the time I was born until now, and I was told that I had to cut my hair short, I had to wear suits to work, I had to get dressed in the men's locker room, I had to do everything that a male does, it wouldn't make a difference in who I feel I am. I close my eyes, you can put a suit on me, but I know that I am a woman. And that helped me to make a little bit of sense over all of these confusing feelings and emotions and understanding of this transgender journey. That these confusing feelings that I can't put words to. So that was one thing I would recommend. The other thing is, obviously what I've shared is my experience, and everybody has their own experience. And just because my daughter chooses and wants to have the different surgeries that you can or cannot get, it doesn't mean that she's any more of a woman than the person that identifies as being transgender and chooses to have no surgery and chooses to not go on hormones. So I don't want people to think that just because, some people get all of these surgeries and do all of these things doesn't mean that those who don't identify with being.
Well, I also want to add in, because it's a fluid, gender is fluid. And there are people who don't identify along the binary. I mean, we're talking about binary now, but there are plenty of people who are non-binary, that their presentation and how they feel whole takes on all different dynamics as far as presentation and who they are. And so absolutely, a person needs to figure out what will make them feel whole. I mean, when you were talking about the exercise you do for yourself, I mean, there's a whole bunch of empathy embracing exercises in the books about putting yourself, asking these kinds of questions of yourself. One exercise that I do when a parent is having a hard time is I say, close your eyes, do that. Would you rather your child be alive or not be alive? And if in the end you love your child, you want your child to be alive, and anything you could do as a parent to help your child feel whole, to help your child have a happy day, I think it's a responsibility of a parent, family members, and friends to help that person do that. And it's not done. An internet doesn't make a person feel that. If this is a feeling that a person knows, just like no matter what you would put on, that you're who you are, everybody knows who they are. And giving person a space to be able to be that is what matters here. And so I want to make sure, is there any question I didn't ask you? I'm sorry, I always get like this, but it really makes me, I feel really strong. This is why I do this work. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you wish I had asked you or missed that you would want me to address that I have not brought up yet?
No, but but another thing that I thought of was I've also learned that throughout this process that if your child is persistent, insistent, and consistent with their feelings of being whatever gender they're saying that they are, if it's different from what they've been born as, assigned as at birth, that as a parent, it is better to not fight that and to embrace them and to listen to them as to who they feel they are. You do more harm in trying to fight that, trying to convince them that there's something, that they're the gender that they've been born into. And that is one thing that I forgot to mention.
Oh, no, it's great. And if you can't, because you mentioned this part too, then help your child find somebody who can support them so they stay alive, whether it's at school, whether it's a sibling, whether it's a friend, whether it's a grandparent that you mentioned, because I know 88-year-old grandparents who totally get it. I know people who are 22 who don't. It's not, it could be an age thing, a generational thing, and it doesn't have to be. And so find somebody for your child, or let your child, no matter what age your child is, if they're 65, let that child find somebody who can be there for them, because the whole point is to stay alive and feel whole and be able to enjoy every day just who you are, loved and respected for just being you as you are. And I have had the most wonderful time with you. The last question I will leave you with is, where do you hope to see yourself and your child and your relationship 5 years from now? Would it involve the advocacy? What do you think it might be for you up the pike, or not?
Right. No, I in my in this whole process, I listen and I watch podcasts and YouTube videos and just everything I can get my hands on. And one thing is that I'm putting a lot of trust into this process. When I hear people who are 6 years down the line or 10 years down the line, that they feel so much of a freedom. They feel free. They feel aligned with who they are. And they've gone through the whole transition and gone through the whole process. They've gotten surgeries or they've not, or whatever. They've gone through their own process and they just feel so much better and lighter and freer. And for my daughter, I pray that I'm trusting that that's what's going to happen. And I will be walking that parallel journey with her. And I'm hoping to feel really good about her when I see her. Not that I don't feel good about her. I feel sad because I know that she's sad about, like I said, we're still in the thick of this. And I hope to feel the same way and just feel free. In terms of advocacy, I don't know. I can't possibly, or maybe yes, I probably would do some kind of advocacy.
Well, I mean, you are by doing this, you're doing advocacy. There's different ways to do it. And I just want to add that for some people, a transition ends after some social transitioning, some for medical and or medical. Some people transitioning never ends. And that's completely up to that individual, and it all needs to be respected. And people have the right to change their mind of things, what pronoun they're going to use, what name they're going to use in any aspect. I don't want to list all the things, but just like everybody can change their mind about everything in this area, it's something that sometimes is tried out to figure out what is right for that person, and that with the right support team, you know, and moving forward, deciding on how you're going to handle being in a relationship or not, or what your feelings are. As a parent, I can see you would be supporting your child wherever they're at. And I really want to thank you, Nina. I think you've been one of the most wonderful guests I could have. So true to yourself, and I know how much caution we had preparing for this, and I think you couldn't have done a better job for us, or a better shown people more truth. You've spoken your truth, and for that, no one could ever apologize. You know, should ever.
I hope it helped somebody.
Yeah. I have no doubt you have.
I hope so.
Yeah, Lil, maybe also because it was out so much for you at the end, if you want to explain for those that tuned in now or a little later, maybe that's what you're going to do. My smart cookie there. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about the initial bumps in connection. I think it's resolved itself. I don't know if it's the wind. It's been very windy here in Europe lately. But yeah, we have a winner that has emailed me.
Tell them why they even became a winner. What does a winner mean? Tell them what it happened, those that just came.
Yeah, we announced in the beginning that we were doing a giveaway of these books, which I have here. And one is for parents and the other is for.
Do you have the slide that has all of them so they can see it better, because there's such a glare?
I do. Hold on 1 second. Let me just share screen here. Sorry, I gotta.
All right, we could skip it. I just because so tell me about the winner, because this is such a great.
There we go. We got all 3 books up there. So
which one did they choose? Did they select one?
They haven't said yet which one they want.
Okay.
So yeah, for the rest of the day, I'll be accepting entries for the other 2 books. Okay. So just send me an email and let me know that you have liked, shared, and apparently you can't comment on this video yet, but once the live stream ends, you can comment, or you can just put a comment in the chat. The live chat does allow people to put in comments still while we are live. So yeah.
You can take the slide down now. You could take the slide down. I'm sorry. I just figured because I wasn't sure which book the person picked. Thank you, Lil, for this. Thank you to the Facialteam. We can't say enough for what the Facialteam has done to support the trans community. What Lil has done, it just never ends with Lil. I love being affiliated with Facialteam and with Lil, as I lovingly call my grandma. And Nina, I'm going to know you for a long time, and I'm happy to believe that's going to be the truth. You know.
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your asking me and asking such thoughtful questions and giving me the space to choose whether or not I was comfortable enough to answer a question, or you always wanted to make sure that I felt safe in this whole exchange and interview. And so I appreciate that.
Oh, sure. And if anybody is interested in being interviewed or speaking with one of us, please contact Facialteam or me at DM Maynard workbook at gmail.com, and I'd be happy to set up an interview with you. And we really want to hear your voices and lift up those that are companions, parents, partners, family members, educators, those that are advocates, and those in the trans community. And all together, every one of those people can have multiple identities in that space.
Now, we get a lot of really positive feedback from people who are viewing these videos. And this is, like I said at the beginning, the 16th video that we've done with Dee here, interviewing all different kinds of people in the community on the topic of gender transition. And next month, probably next month, we're working on setting a date, but we'll be interviewing Sarah Coffey, who has just published her autobiography. It's called Sweetgrass, The Girl in the Dream. Sarah is someone who transitioned at a later stage in life. So it will be an interesting perspective. You know, we talk with younger people, we talk with older people, and we talked with parents, with partners, with family members. And we also have a sister who's going to be interviewed this year as well. So yeah, stay tuned.
Right. People who've written, authors on the topic, we really want to promote people understanding that these voices need to be heard and respected. And I'm look forward to this, and maybe some blogging. We have some maybe blogging projects going on that I'll be involved with, which I'm excited to say. So Nina, thank you for your time. Hugs to your daughter from us. And we want to thank her for being comfortable enough to give you the say, Mom, go ahead, go do this. And I thank her very much, and I want to leave it on celebrating her.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dean. Thank you, Nina, so much. It's been a pleasure. So shall we close this live now? And
Yes.
Just to say to our viewers, please do like, follow, and share this video with your lovely friends. And remember, your health and happiness matter. Bye-bye.
Bye. Happy New Year.